2023 NFL season is upon us, and I thought it would only make sense to go ahead and give my ranking of the top 10 quarterbacks going into the 2023 NFL season. Welcome back to the Voiceovers Podcast. I'm 24K Logan. My list is not the correct list. It's just an opinion like everybody else. I'm just sharing it with y'all. Y'all comment down below what y'all agree with, what y'all disagree with, what y'all would rank each quarterback. Number 10, Lamar Jackson. Now, I understand that Lamar Jackson is, in some people's eyes, a top 5 quarterback. And while I do think that he has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback, and you probably could make a significant argument for him being a top 10 quarterback, or top 5 quarterback, just based off of his natural talent, his ability, and how dynamic he is. I know some people might say that I have him too low, and while I understand that, again, this is strictly based off of what each quarterback did in 2022, and I understand that Lamar is the glue to the Ravens that makes them stick together and win football games. But due to his health and, just naming off some of his stats, 2,242 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 62.3 completion percentage. I have to put him at number 10. I felt that it was the fair thing to do when you consider the quarterbacks that I'm about to put above him. But Lamar Jackson, I'm looking for him to have a bounce back year now that he has a true number 1 receiver in Odell Beckham Jr. He still has his tight end Mark Andrews, and he also has Zay Flowers, who I think is going to show a lot of promise and do great things in this league. I think that Lamar Jackson will have a bounce back year, and he might get back into that top 5 quarterback conversation or top 5 quarterback rankings. But moving on with number 9, I have Kirk Cousins. There is this stigma against Kirk Cousins. Every year there has been something said against his talent, his ability to win. And while I do see the argument, just being straight honest and to the point, Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. And if we're just going to talk about from a statistics standpoint, once again, I'm going to name off his stats. In 2022, he had a 65.9 completion percentage. He threw for 4,547 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, that had a 92.5 QB rating. Now, he finished top 5 for, I believe, passing yards and I want to say completion percentage. So for him to finish top 5 in multiple stats, and then we see the Vikings record, even though they didn't do so good in the playoffs, nevertheless, they were a playoff team. There was no doubt about it. And I still believe that with Kirk Cousins, they are the best team in the NFC North, although the Lions could dethrone them, maybe even the Bears, if they add a few more pieces along with Justin Fields. But Kirk Cousins, for me, is number 9. Like I said, I understand the stigma around him, that he can't win you the big games and whatnot. And while I do, see it, it's become a cool thing to hate on Kirk Cousins. And I don't see why, because if we're just talking from a statistic standpoint, he is a top 10 quarterback and he has won more games than he's lost. Number 8, Trevor Lawrence. Okay, so Trevor Lawrence, he definitely had a huge improvement compared to how he played in 2021, because of course in 2021 we saw how things went with him and Urban Meyer. He threw for 17 interceptions, but I still had faith in Trevor Lawrence to not only get better, but that he could turn this franchise around, and he did just that in 2022. He improved, he turned the franchise around. We see him come from behind from 27 points, I believe it was, in the wild card against the Chargers. Although you can say that was more of the Chargers defense not doing their job. Lawrence did throw 5 interceptions in that game. However, he is a top 10 quarterback. He has proven that this year. I know that some people said that he could be an MVP candidate very soon. I don't know how I feel about that completely, but I can definitely see the argument. And as I stated, Trevor Lawrence is only going to continue to get better, especially if he has some more weapons added to his arsenal. Number 7, Dakota Rain Prescott. If you can't tell by now, I'm a Cowboys fan, and that's why I said his entire name. All right, with Dak Prescott, right? Same with Kirk Cousins. I understand, some of the stigma around him and the notion that he can't win you the big games. And as a Cowboys fan, I have to admit, with this being Dak's upcoming, this is his 8th year this season. This is his 8th year in the league. If Dak does not get the Cowboys to at least the NFC Championship, especially if the Cowboys are fully healthy, then I think that's where my final opinion would come in of Dak Prescott, that unfortunately Dallas won't win a Super Bowl with him. However, I do think that if Dak plays to his potential, considering the roster that the Cowboys have, Dak Prescott can definitely win a Super Bowl, maybe even multiple Super Bowls with this particular roster, especially when you consider our defense. I do understand that Dak had a decline this year compared to how he played in 2021. Of course, he led the lead in interceptions with 15 interceptions, and people always want to bring up how he missed 5 games or 4 games and still led the league in interceptions. But in turnaround to that, Dak Prescott has not always been an interception machine. His first 3 or 4 seasons, maybe even 5 seasons, he was not constantly throwing interceptions, especially interceptions that are like Pop Warner mistake level. You know what I'm saying? Dak Prescott is a top 10 quarterback. I don't see why people try to argue against it. And a lot of people are going to throw some heat at me for having him above people like Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson. But here's my argument with that. While I can understand why some people want Lamar Jackson and Trevor Lawrence to be above Dak Prescott, you combine regular season performance, their overall resumes, and then playoff success. And Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson do not have more playoff success than Dak Prescott. Not that Dak has that much more playoff success. I think he only has 1 more win. But nevertheless, Dak Prescott has performed better in the playoffs statistically and record-wise than Trevor Lawrence and Lamar Jackson. Although Trevor Lawrence has only been in the league for 2 years and he's went to the playoffs once. So it's kind of a give or take argument with that. But that's how I feel overall with Dak Prescott. I'm looking forward to seeing Dak Prescott bounce back this year. And I'm hoping that he can not only do great things with the Cowboys, but take the Cowboys to the NFC Championship. Because if Dak plays to his potential and you see the Cowboys roster, Dak can definitely take the Cowboys to an NFC Championship and even more so a Super Bowl if he protects the football and plays to his potential. Okay, moving on to number 6, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers had a decline this season compared to how he's done in previous seasons. However, let's not pretend that he did not lose his best weapon, which was a top 5, arguably top 3 receiver in Davante Adams. If Aaron Rodgers still had Davante Adams, I think that Green Bay not only would have won that division, Aaron Rodgers would have had a better season statistically. I definitely think that now that Aaron Rodgers is with the Jets, a team that has one of the best defenses in the league, and he has a weapon in Garrett Wilson, I'm looking forward to Aaron Rodgers bouncing back and having a way better year than what he had in 2022. Aaron Rodgers is definitely a top 6 quarterback in the league. You can even make the argument for top 5, if he was to still have a Davante Adams, but we're going to see how things are with him and Garrett Wilson. I'm looking forward to Aaron Rodgers showing off this year with the Jets. Number 5, Justin Herbert. Now, one thing I can say about Justin Herbert, I think the only argument you can make against him being top 5 is playoff performance. That is a big issue against him right now. But the Chargers don't even make the playoffs without Justin Herbert. I believe that's a no-brainer. Just naming off some of his stats: 4,739 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 93.2 rating. Justin Herbert has proven why he is so important to the Chargers franchise. And again, they do not make the playoffs without him. That's a no-brainer, guys. The Chargers do not make the playoffs without Justin Herbert. And him and Keenan Allen have been a significant duo the last few years. I would argue if you gave him another top 15-ish receiver, kind of like how the Cowboys got the addition of Brandon Cooks, you give Justin Herbert a receiver like that, and I think that the Chargers are a better team than what people think they are. But that's how I feel about Justin Herbert. Number 4, Josh Allen. Again, Josh Allen is the quintessential leader of the Buffalo Bills. You know, that's needless to say. Just throwing off some of his stats: 4,283 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 96.6 QB rating. Josh Allen, again, the stigma with him, kind of the same as what it is with other quarterbacks, is his playoff performance. While I do understand that, let's not pretend that the AFC is not a tough conference, a tougher conference than the NFC. And that's coming from somebody who was a big Cowboys fan. I have to admit, the AFC in its entirety is better than the NFC. So you think about the quarterbacks that Josh Allen has to go through each season, particularly in the playoffs: Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, who I'm going to get to very soon. You know, and then you think about guys like Lamar Jackson. We see Trevor Lawrence is on the come up. We see Tua is on the come up, and Tua arguably is a top 10 quarterback. But that's another comment for another day. But you take into consideration the competition that Josh Allen has to go up against, and you think about how important he is to the Bills Mafia. I know that's kind of funny to say Bills Mafia, but you think about how important he is to the Bills. It's a no-brainer that he's a top 5 quarterback in this league. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Okay, with Jalen Hurts, right? So, like I said, I'm a Cowboys fan, and I hate the Eagles with all my heart. I really do. But I have to give credit where credit is due. I respect the hell out of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts did big things this year. I don't think it's a crazy statement to make that he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I'm sure that a lot of people would agree with me. I've said that in a previous video, that he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to seeing Jalen Hurts improve, even as a Dallas Cowboy fan. You take into consideration that he rushed for nearly 800 yards. I believe rushed for 6 touchdowns. He threw for 22 touchdowns and passed for almost 3,800 yards and only threw 6 interceptions. He was a very important piece to the Eagles roster. And I believe that Jalen Hurts could win a Super Bowl with the Eagles. I definitely think he can. But we have yet to see. But due to how he performed in the Super Bowl and what he did for the Eagles this year and how drastically he improved from the previous year, that's why I had to put him in the top 3, even as a Cowboys fan. Shout out to Jalen Hurts. Number 2, and this is the only quarterback who I believe, outside of Jalen Hurts' performance in the Super Bowl, this is the only quarterback that I truly believe can, without question, give Patrick Mahomes a run for his money, and that is no other than Joe Burrow. I'll give y'all some of Joe Burrow's stats this year: 4,475 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 100.8 QB rating, and a 68.3 completion percentage. Joe Burrow has completely revised the Cincinnati Bengals franchise. Yes, of course, he has arguably the best trio in the league as far as wide receivers with Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I understand that, but he also has a average at best offensive line and not that good of a defense. So with that being said, Joe Burrow again has really changed the culture and the trajectory of the Cincinnati Bengals. And he is the only quarterback that I believe can, without question, not downplaying any other quarterbacks, but he's the only one that I believe, without question, can give Patrick Mahomes a run for his money, especially when you consider the fact that he has beaten Patrick Mahomes for 3 years straight. So that's how I feel about Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is number 2 on my list. Number 1, do I really need to say it? I don't, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's a no-brainer. Patrick Mahomes is the best QB in the league. Patrick Mahomes is something special, man. I've said this on numerous occasions. I think a lot of players in the NFL, have respect for him. A lot of NFL fans have respect for him. And then, you take into consideration what he has done all these years. 5 straight AFC title appearances, if I'm not mistaken. And we just saw what happened in the Super Bowl, him winning his second Super Bowl MVP award and his second Super Bowl, of course. Patrick Mahomes this year threw for 5,250 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, had a 105.2 QB rating, and completed 67.1% of his passes. Patrick Mahomes has done things that I have not seen too many other quarterbacks do, other than maybe like an Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking in terms of, making certain passes that you just wouldn't believe or that you would think is impossible to do. Obviously, he is the leader of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs do not go far without Patrick Mahomes. And we don't see that too often, where you have a quarterback that can, carry a team the way that Patrick Mahomes has carried the Chiefs for the last 4 or 5 seasons. Patrick Mahomes is already in the conversation for top 5 quarterback of all time, along with Aaron Rodgers. So, it only made, and, you think about it, Patrick Mahomes is only, 27 years old? 26, 27 years old. He still has a lot of football left in him. And I'm not going to make this a conversation about Patrick Mahomes being able to surpass Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or whoever, but he is already in that discussion for a top 5 quarterback of all time. I can definitely see the argument, and you can make a strong argument for him being in that conversation. But overall, that is how I feel about Patrick Mahomes. I appreciate y'all for watching. Y'all comment down below what y'all think of this ranking. Let me know what y'all agree with, what y'all disagree with, how y'all would rank these quarterbacks, which quarterbacks would y'all keep on here, which quarterbacks would y'all take off. Of course, football season is upon us, and more football content is on the way, guys. Once again, thanks for watching. All the links to our social medias is in the description. Please subscribe. It'll help us out. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. More content is on the way. As always, peace and love.